Hi, Elaine. So nice having you with me today.
So excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. And so, as we talked before, I met you a few years ago. I think it was one of your podcasts I listened to, and there was this image of you with a rainbow in the background, and just listening to you and who you were and your intentions and your questions. I really resonated with everything you said and just your whole vibe. And, obviously, I love colors. I put them in all my work. I feel like they have a certain energy and vibration. And I just love the work you do. And we did a body art session together. And I want to know how you became the social media influencer you are today, and what inspired you, because we're both Iranian Jewish, and there's certain ways of being in our culture, and sometimes it's those leaps of faith and courage we need to um, do the things we're passionate about. So tell us your
Totally.
story.
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for the compliments. The love is absolutely mutual. I think we are rainbow twin soul sisters, and I have just loved you ever since we connected. So I just wanted to start off by saying
Thank
that.
you.
Um,
Thank you.
Little history about how I got to where I am, and then I'll connect it to the colors. So, growing up, I always say I was always fascinated with the entertainment world, and I always wanted to like do something with celebrities in Hollywood. And so I did kind of stuff in high school around that kind of arena. But then when I got to UCLA, which is where most Persian Jewish girls in LA go,
Yes.
my family was like, that's so cute that you like Hollywood, but that is a hobby. That's not a real job. You need to become a doctor or a lawyer, choose your path. And so I ended up doing the pre-med path with all of my Persian Jewish friends. And despite, being good in math and, being studious in school, I hated it. And I'm like, this is not what I want to do. And I did a lot of internships on the side in the PR and Hollywood world to see if that's actually what I liked. And I did see that's what I wanted to do. And so after studying pre-med for 3 years, after studying for the LSAT and taking it, I told my family, I'm like, thank you so much. This is not for me. This is not who I am. And I got a job in PR, and I kind of went from there. And throughout the time, I always felt really, I know like a lot of Persian people say like, no, but I'm not like the other Persians. Like I'm different. I
Yeah.
really felt different. And I felt like I didn't have anyone around me who was doing anything in the not even social media wasn't even around in the Hollywood marketing world. Like I couldn't even find an example of someone to like talk to about this. And I felt like kind of like a pioneer in this category. And so when I got to my PR job, I would get a lot of comments about my outfits. People would come in with like t-shirts and jeans because like, they're at work. And I would be dressing in these like extravagant, crazy, like colorful looks. And everyone would always compliment me on my outfits. And they would always say I was so colorful. I always have loved color, like ever since I was a kid. And I really started to notice it there more. And I remember a few friends in college and some coworkers continually told me like, you should take photos of your outfits and start a blog. And this is again before Instagram, and a blog where you can like post a fashion look every day was a thing. And for a while, I'm like, that's so awkward. That's so weird. Like who posts photos of themselves now? We all do. But then
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I really believe in this. And it's not just for me to post photos of myself. Like, I am this Persian Jewish girl who has not done the typical path and line of being a doctor, of being a lawyer. I'm in this PR world. I get a lot of comments and judgment about the outfits that I wear. Not that they're inappropriate, but it's like not appropriate for a Persian girl to not be wearing black or to be wearing a headband or wear a
Yeah.
crazy piece of jewelry. Like, and I would always be so stuck because I couldn't understand why I couldn't just be myself. So I created this fashion blog where my whole model was be what you want, wear what you want. And I really resonated with that statement. And I hope that from my crazy fashion looks, it would inspire people to embrace who they were and whatever that meant to them. And so now I've been doing that for 12 years. And it's kind of my Instagram that has now become like the blog has changed. And it's really focused more and more on that sentiment with the authentic things I talk about in dating and mental health, and right now with Israel and stuff like that. And the color component specifically, I remember in my third year of blogging, when again, Instagram had like just started, I was with one of my friends who was also a blogger. And I was telling him, like, it's really hard. All of the really famous, successful bloggers right now are these girls wearing jeans and a casual top standing against like a white background. And I'm like, but that's not me. Like, I am not the person who can handle, I'm like, but that's not me. I'm not the person that can handle just not being in color. And I said this to me, and I still keep it to this day. He said, you are not meant to be like everyone else. You are meant to be you. And the people that love you for who you are and all the color will resonate with you. And I think that's so interesting, that how you got attracted to me was literally because of my color. And my following follows me literally because of my color. So
yes. And I can totally relate to that because I do also look at the other artists who are a little more muted and have those more earth tones. And I have that in my art as well, but I always go back to all the colors because it resonates with me so much. And, you should do this or you should do that. And also coming from a culture where Black is the thing to wear. And I used to do that as well. And I realized how much energy colors bring and happiness. And I just love everything you're putting out there. And I think you're on the right path, and you're inspiring other Iranian girls to come out of their shell and to be themselves. Because I think sometimes in our culture or in our religion, we're put in this box to be a certain way. And I think there's more to us than that, than what our culture tells us to do or be. And you are emanating that. You're showing that. And I think you're a really good example, especially for the younger generation who are maybe afraid to show their true colors and be themselves.
Thanks so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because especially like I've really pushed myself to share personal things about like how I'm feeling, because I believe that other people are feeling that way too. And even right now with everything going on in the world, I've shared a lot of just like, tidbits of like what I'm feeling and stuff like that. And someone who I just recently became friends with said, it's really inspiring that you are being so courageous to share your personal feelings and thoughts, because I can't do that, is what she's telling me. Like, I feel uncomfortable being that way. And hearing you say that stuff not only inspires me to maybe be more open, but also helps me resonate with whatever I'm going through at the moment. And things like that remind me that like it's important for people to have someone. And I think I never had that, on my path of being who I am. And so I'm trying to be the model that I wish I had when I was younger.
Yes, yes, I absolutely agree with that. And seeing you, watching you has given me the courage to share my work more authentically, because I think, oh, am I getting too political here? Or, with the art I'm sharing, or sometimes I get a little nervous about the things I put out in the comments people will leave me. And I've gotten some, not so nice comments as you have.
Yeah.
And I loved how you reacted to the comments that people leave on your Instagram, and what you told me once when I made a comment about, wow, there's just so much hate. And, especially in the comments below, that's an example of it, of what's going on in the world. And the way you responded was so beautiful and graceful. And it really resonated with me. And I think that's the example more people need to put out there, because we go back and forth, especially on social media, and it becomes so toxic.
Yeah.
And
it's so bad.
It's so bad. And so I want to know, like, you've become this authentic voice. Like, you've changed and evolved so much since you first started. and being Iranian and Jewish and putting out, like being so honest.
Yeah.
How is that for you? And what is your intention when you do that? Because it takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
What is going through you whenever you post something that it, which for me, it's sometimes when I come out and say those things, I get nervous. I get a little bit
Mhm.
of anxiety. How is
Yeah.
that for you?
So it's so funny. I remember distinctly when I made the shift. So my Instagram and blog back in the day was all solely about fashion, my fashion looks and like what I was doing. Like you didn't really gather much personal stuff about me. And then it's so funny. I had this moment at Coachella because it's so LA influencer of me that while people had the best weekend, I had a mental breakdown. And that's not what you typically get. And basically, I remember I had everything. I was getting paid by all these brands. I had like colorful hair. Like Nicole Richie loved my outfit, who's my fashion
Wow.
icon. I had an assistant with me. It was like the prime of what I could have dreamt of being a successful blogger. And there was a moment that like me and my assistant were running to the Ferris wheel, which is like the iconic part of Coachella to take a photo at. And like, I'm like, we need to get this photo before the sun sets or I've been a failure this weekend. And we're like rushing and like there was traffic. And I was like, aside from all of that, like unhappy for like other reasons. And we took this amazing photo and I look at this photo and I'm like, I am being so fake here. I could post this very easily and be like, oh, I had the best time at Coachella, but I didn't. I was really
Mm.
sad. And I was like, I wonder how many, and then I started looking around while I was at the festival and this was happening. Like, I wonder how many of these people might actually be sad and they are using Coachella and this weekend to escape from how they're feeling. And I just came back and I'm like, I can't be the same anymore because I just feel like I'm being inauthentic to what I'm going through because I know I'm being fake. And I just wanted to make more of a difference than just inspiring people to wear a shirt, you know? And
Yeah.
so I remember I posted this whole thing when I came back, like, this seems like I'm really happy, but I was really sad. And I didn't even say more than that. But for me, that was so terrifying to say. And I got so much reaction from it, like in a positive, people like, we love you, we're thinking of you. And then I'm like, oh my God, does everyone think I'm depressed? Like, and I'm like going through all of these thoughts of like being vulnerable and how uncomfortable that was for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like now that was in 2017. So it's been 6 years that I've now slowly more and more have shared more and more stuff. And I do it for the people who like every time I post something, even if I don't get that much engagement on my post, I have one person who says to me, I needed to hear that today. And that
Mm.
one person reminds me why I do this, because I know that everything that we're all going through is not just what one person is going through. Someone else is going through that too. And my queen and idol, Taylor Swift, like the reason why she's so successful is like all of her songs are about what she's going through. But I listen
Yes.
to her album and I'm like, literally, this is what I'm going through or what
Yes.
I've gone through. And so I think it's like being vulnerable has been able to like connect with people. And like that, I feel like is my purpose to do. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, no, it does. And I feel like, so when I first started on social media, I really didn't want to. I was resisting it so much. But one of my artist friends told me, you have to share so you could share your art. And I just was thinking, oh, it's just such a negative platform, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why is because I felt like people were putting out this facade, like that everything was so perfect in their lives, which I don't believe anyone's lives are perfect. So when I see others, especially social media influencers, because they have so much of an impact out there, being authentic and real, telling it like it is, I really appreciate it. So I thank you for being so real and honest, even though some might not like it and may not resonate with it. You still move forward and you are still connecting and inspiring the ones who are and who will
Mm-hmm.
be there and who will back you up. And I think that's beautiful. And it helps me. It helps me to do what I do and continue doing it and not come from fear.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Thank you. I think something you'll actually specifically really appreciate about that, though, is I'm so passionate about the messages that I send and do. And I'm very mindful about how I say things, what I want to say. And every post has been, a lot of thought has been put into it.
I'm
But
sure.
being an Iranian Jewish girl who is also not married, you can imagine in this community, some of my videos, I don't even say anything wild or crazy, but saying maybe I'm unhappy one day or I'm struggling, we're all struggling, doesn't sit well. And like, I've gotten a lot of feedback from people that care about me, friends, family, that maybe the reason why I'm not married is because I share a little too much about how I feel. And so it's been a very hard battle because ironically, the reason I started this was to like, be like, don't feed into the, societal pressures of the Iranian Jewish community. But then it gets really hard when the exact thing that I'm trying to do against that is being backfired to me, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Yes, that makes total sense. Yeah, I understand. And have you ever had any limiting beliefs or doubts? I know I have as an artist and as a creative. Has there ever been a moment where you're like, oh, should I continue doing this? Is this, I, I don't know, any of those thoughts?
Oh yeah, I have imposter syndrome all the time. I mean, people have told me because like my videos are very like motivational. You could do it. I've gotten a lot of like, you're not a coach, you're not a life coach. Who are you to be giving people advice? Like you don't have a
Mm,
like certificate to do this. And I even stopped, I don't know if you remember, but I took a
yeah.
hiatus from Instagram for 6 months for all of those factors in one. And it really made me question, like, do I want to be on here? And I felt at that point I was just posting to post. I don't know if I was really giving the value that I wanted because I was kind of just figuring out different things in my life. But I didn't actually think I was going to come back. I said I was going to, like in my goodbye post, but I didn't really think I was. And then I think I got to a point, which was like last February, when I realized how important this was to me. And it wasn't for the posting, but it was what the posting was allowing me to do for people that I wouldn't talk to otherwise, or who wouldn't see what I was trying to say otherwise.
Yes, I remember when you took that break and I was a little sad about it, but I thought it was good that you were taking that time to reflect and to think and just go over your journey and with everything you've gone through. So, and then I saw you, you moved to London, which I
Yes.
thought was so cool. I love to travel.
Yeah.
I have a bug for traveling, and I've been to London before, but I've never stayed in a country for a certain amount of time, like for that long.
Yeah.
And I want to know what made you take that leap of faith, and um, because there can be so much self-doubt and fear involved in that, I'm sure. And I always talk about how we need to get out of our comfort zones and do things that us that make our knees shake.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that was something that happened with you. So tell
Yeah.
us about that and your story behind that.
Yeah. So I mean, as I said, everything I do has a lot of thought behind it. And so this was something that I've thought about for 3 years, like during the pandemic. But even before that, I always like had wished that I lived in another city, even for a little. I'm born and raised in LA. I've never lived somewhere else. I've never even dormed in college somewhere else. I lived
Mm.
at home. And so I always wanted to do something of that nature. And one of my best friends who I met in LA moved back to London during the pandemic. And so I kept being like, I'm going to come here for a few months because I work for myself and have like a more flexible schedule. And then when I went to visit her in January of last year, I was like, why am I not doing this? And I'm like, when would be the right time? I've always made an excuse that right now is not the right time, but no time is going to be the right time. And so
Mm-mm.
I was like, that's it. I'm just doing it. I will figure it out when I get there. And the second that I said that, things fell into place. Like I wanted to find a roommate, and everyone's like, it's going to be impossible. London is so expensive. Where you want to live won't happen. The roommate just like appeared. I mean, it didn't like just appear, but like, it
Right.
happened. And I think it's like when you conspire to do something, the world will make it happen for you, but you actually need to
Yes.
be all into wanting to that happen. And I will say, I've talked about this nonstop to anyone that would listen to me for years that I wanted to do it. The second I bought my flight and the second I told this girl I'm going to go live with her, I was like unwell for the like weeks leading up to it. I'm like, what am I doing? This is a big mistake. I'm so scared. Like people are like, are you excited? I'm like, no. Like, and now I miss it so much and I wish I was there again. So, and it did. It forced me to get out of my comfort zone, especially during the pandemic where I got really comfortable sitting at home. And even now,
Mhm.
like I'm in a routine of like, I'd rather be home or I'd rather do nothing. And it forced me to be like, I'm not home. I cannot stay home. I need to make friends. I need to meet people. And so I met so many people by literally pushing myself out of my comfort zone.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
And I feel like so many people can learn from that. We get comfortable where we are. And yeah,
Yeah.
I felt that as well during the pandemic, and to push ourselves to do something that's a little bit different, that makes our heart beat a little faster,
Yeah.
and it makes you feel more alive. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that it looked like the experience was amazing and you had a wonderful time.
It was so fun. I will also add to this that I also did that for every Persian Jewish girl who's been told that they
Yes.
are too old to do anything. I'm in my 30s, and people are like, you are wasting your life away by going for 3 months, which was how long I went to do this, and that I'm
Mhm.
too old and it's past my time. I could have only done that in my 20s. And I'm like, who told us when we are allowed to do something by what age? So I also did it for that reason.
Well, let me say, I got married early. I got married in my early 20s and had kids and all that stuff. And I did do my traveling and, had fun. But I look at my friends who are not married yet, who are in their 30s, and they're traveling, they're doing so many amazing things. And the grass is always greener, like you
Yeah.
think, because once you accomplish that goal, you're like, oh, but I wish that I could have done that instead, or could have maybe waited longer, before I got married and traveled more or stayed in a country for a couple months.
Yeah.
Those thoughts go. So I feel like, especially in our culture, it's never enough, because once you do get married, then when are you having the baby,
Hmm.
when you're having a baby, and
Yeah.
then once you have that baby, when are you having the next
Yeah.
baby,
Correct.
and then the next one
Correct.
is never enough.
It's
It's
never
like
enough.
constant, or like money, like the house, the bigger house is never enough, or the cars, or the like. I just feel like there's just so much more to life, and we don't have to follow the rules that were given to us. Like,
100%. And I think why like a lot of people are like, you looked so happy in London. And I literally was. And I think a big thing with that was like, we are like how you're saying, always focused on like the goals, the next thing, like how are we going to achieve that? And I knew that I was going to be there for a certain amount of time. And while I was trying to like go on dates, get jobs and stuff like that, I was like, my number one priority is to be present every day with
yes.
no goal, because I will be leaving at some point, which is also harder to have that mentality when you like are home and you'll be here. And I'm like, but I have a certain amount of days here. How am I going to make the most of every day? And like people who followed me, like my highlights was like sitting in a park, going on a tube, like being on a bus. Like I didn't do anything wild, but I appreciated every second, which is something that like I'm trying to take on even here now that I'm back in LA. And like I want to encourage other people to do even in their own hometowns when they don't feel like it's like a new place or like a new opportunity, you know?
Right. We all get into that um, trap of always thinking of the future and ahead, and not being present in the moment. And having kids myself, I realized how important it is to just be with them, like when they're talking to me, because I have two teenagers now, and they don't always sit and talk with me anymore. But when they do, I'm like really hyper focused on them and our conversation, because I know it's fleeting and I'm not always going to have those conversations with them. So it's so nice that you're bringing that awareness. We need to be more present and be in that moment and just enjoy those precious moments. So thank
Yeah.
you for that.
Yeah.
So do you have any words of wisdom for our creative spirits out there?
I think the biggest thing is to not overthink things and also don't listen to other people, because I think that starts to affect whatever kind of art you're doing, whether it's physical art or like social media posts, like thinking so much about other people's opinions, because everyone's going to have an opinion about everything you do. But like, what is true
Yes.
to you and what lights you up? Because, like, for example, like, I've been doing this for 12 years now on social media in every iteration. And then once TikTok started, like, people started doing like the dances and the trends, which I still do, I have done. But then we get so uncreative and so focused on what other people are doing to mimic
Yes.
them. And so we're becoming really unoriginal. So, like, against all of that, how can you still be true to you, be creative to you, and remember at the end of the day, like, your why? Like, why are you doing the things you do? Like, why are you doing the paintings you do? Why are you doing this podcast? Why am I making the certain videos that I'm making? Like, remembering the why is going to
The
drive
why.
you into like anything you want to do.
I love that. I agree with you 100%. Your why is the thing. And so many people always talk about that, especially coaches. And I just love everything you're doing and putting out there. Keep up the great work. And
Thanks. You too.
I look forward to seeing your videos and your energy and light and the outfits you wear. I love your outfits. I
Thank you
do.
so much.
I feel like not enough of us go out there and just express ourselves the way we want to
Yeah.
and just be ourselves, to be ourselves, because we're afraid of what other people will think. And that's been a journey of mine, to let go of what other people think of me, and that not everyone is going to like you. And
Mm-hmm.
that's been what I've come to, where it's like, okay, not everyone's going to like me or the art I make or what I put out there. And that's okay. There
Yeah.
are the people who will and who will love my work or the message that I put out there. And um, yeah, it does all come down to why. Why are we doing all of this? So thank you.
Yeah.
And please tell us where our audience can find you.
Yes. My biggest platform is Instagram. So Instagram at Elaine Chaya, ELAINE CHAYA.
Awesome. And I'm going to put that in the show notes as well. And
Amazing.
people can watch our video too on YouTube.
Yay.
And yeah, I'll put that there as well. And thank you again for being patient with me. We had some technical difficulties,
I said it's
but
my
that's
fault.
okay.
I'm the technical difficulty, attractor, but it's okay. We got here.
Yes. So thank you. And we'll talk soon.
Yeah.